One thing I want to do today on the channel is back up some of the claims and show you guys some real world examples of just how much prices are coming down for some properties here in the United States. And we're talking some high-end places and some low-end places. So this is happening in all different parts of the country, and it's all happening on different spectrums and different levels of real estate. And I even have a forward example to show you guys, that it's not just here in the United States that this is happening. And I know that all this gets heavy sometimes, and I've seen some requests recently for me to show some of my guitar playing again. So anybody who hangs in there through the rest of this video, I'll have a guitar playing clip for you in the end. So the first example I want to show is a condo in Florida example that was sent to me by TJ. Okay, this is a condo located in Pompano Beach, and I don't know what's going on with this building. I'm not that familiar with Pompano Beach, just passed through a few times, but I'm willing to bet that the building's getting hit with a major assessment like so many other condos, and it's hard to sell. Or maybe if they don't have a major assessment, maybe the HOA fees have skyrocketed recently. Even though it's only $662 a month, that's not crazy for a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo in Florida, so it's probably a special assessment. Well, take a look at their price history here, okay? First of all, they tried listing it for rent back in July of this year for $4,400, couldn't get it rented, and they ended up lowering the rental price down to $3,900 before removing the listing altogether. So that's a $500 cut in rent, and still couldn't get the place rented, okay? So I don't know what kind of condition this place is in. Just from the picture here, it looks like a pretty nice apartment. But then at the end of July, they went ahead and listed the property for sale again for $399,000 and have since cut the price by $100,000, guys. As of September 5th, the new price is $299,000. That's a 25% reduction in just a couple months. These guys must be very desperate to get out of this place, because when you look at the listing history like this and you see how big the reductions are and how fast the moves are, that gives you a hint at how desperate the seller is. You know, they listed it for rent on July 7th, and already by July 12th, the listing was removed. So literally a week later, after lowering it $500, no hits, they're like, okay, let's take it off the market for rent. Then they go ahead and list it for sale at the end of July, right? So literally a month and a half has passed since they list this property for sale, and now it's $100,000 less. Maybe with further reductions coming, we don't even know. And if you think that's crazy, we're just getting started, because the price reductions are gonna get a whole lot bigger from here, okay? One of my viewers, Safwan, he's an appraiser here in Northern California. So his job is to go and determine the value of a property being sold, and he gets hired by the bank or the lender to do this, right? Well, he sent me this listing up in Napa Valley, huge mansion, 6-bedroom, 6.5-bath mansion, 7,200 square feet. And when you look at the listing history of this property, these guys are literally the bag holders, okay? And they are losing a ton of money right now. First thing we can tell from looking at some of the listing history here is that this property has been flipped a couple of times in the past few years. In 2018, it sold for $7.95 million, right? And then the current owner bought it in April of 2021 for $8.1 million. Well, they thought they were going to be the next hotshot, you know, luxury real estate flipper like they see on TV, and then they turn around and try to flip the property starting in February of 2022, listed it for a whopping $8.5 million, okay? They paid 8.1. Price reduction after price reduction over more than 2 years, guys, lands us to today, where the property finally has gone contingent on August 27th. And the last listing price was $7.25. And the insider information I have on this is they're going to be selling this property very close to $7.1 million. So they bought it for $8.1 million, and now they're selling it for $7.1 million just a couple years later, guys. So they're losing well over $1 million on this property. Just imagine the level of upkeep and maintenance and expenses you have on a property like this to just keep the lights on, to keep the gardeners coming, to keep the pool clean, to keep the whole house clean. Like, there is a tremendous amount of things that have to be done on a 7,200 square foot estate to keep the property looking in pristine condition. I think we would all agree on that. Not to mention the giant amount of property taxes they have to pay during those couple of years of ownership. So when you factor in all those carrying costs, plus losing the $1 million plus the closing costs and commissions to go ahead and sell this house. These guys are losing a tremendous amount of money, maybe even $2 million in the span of 2 years. That is unbelievable. You know, a lot of people are talking about how the luxury sector of real estate is the only sector that's still holding out for some reason, and that, you know, that's kind of immune to this downturn. No, it isn't, guys. This is the perfect example right here of how luxury is getting slapped with this downturn right now. And you face much bigger losses when you're dealing with luxury like this. Now, maybe this person can afford to lose that $2 million, but even if you can, I'm sure it still stinks. Here's another real world example for you guys. Right here in Tiburon, where I'm walking, there's a house for sale. It's been on the market for quite some time. They listed it back at the end of April of this year. So that's a long time for any property to be sitting on the market. But they bought it back in May of 2021 for $2.6 million. Then they listed it for sale for $3.25 million in April, and they have since cut the price by $300,000, guys, in one fell swoop, okay? They listed it in April, no price cuts at all, until just a few weeks ago in the middle of August, $300,000 price cut, lopped right off the top. And I would even argue, even if this person is able to sell this house for the $2.9 million, that's only a $300,000 spread from where they purchased it for, and between all the carrying costs they've had during this time, between the closing costs for them, they'll be lucky, and I mean lucky, if they just break even on this property and walk away with a clean $2.6 million. And really, when you think about it, they're actually still losing money, because even if they do break even and walk away with that clean 2.6, they are still losing because of inflation. Inflation has run rampant between 2021 and now, and so you could say that they're still going to lose money. And it's hard to tell what's going on with these properties. You don't know if they're direct flips or if it's people that lived in the house for a little while and decided, hey, it's too expensive to live here, or maybe I need to move because of whatever reason something came up and I have to sell. You don't really know what the situation is, but it's kind of ironic how a lot of these houses that we're looking at were purchased just 2-3 years ago and are now being listed for sale. I consider that a flip, whether it's intentional or not. Here's an international example for you guys from our neighbors to the north. One of my viewers, Dominic from Canada, he sent me this example of this house. I don't have pictures for you guys, but there was a news story about it, which I have linked in the description for anybody who wants to read about it. A house in Brampton that sold for a $640,000 loss. This is on the outskirts of Toronto. This house sold at the beginning of this year for $1.7 million, but back in January of 2022, the previous owner paid $2.3 million for the house, guys. So anybody who bought in like 2021 or 2022 trying to sell today, it's pretty much a guarantee you're going to be losing a substantial amount of money right now. And you know, the funny thing is, even with a $640,000 loss, they actually said that this homeowner did better than what was expected, given how bad the downturn has been in this area in Brampton, Canada. How crazy is that? That some people are actually losing more money than that right now. So this house lost 25% of its value in just 2 years. To me, that's the definition of a housing crash, guys. An area like this that's losing that much value that fast, that is a housing crash. If this area in Pompano where that condo got reduced by 25% overnight, that's a housing crash, guys. And it may not be happening everywhere, but it's definitely happening on an individual level with certain properties. Some people are going to be able to benefit from this tremendously by picking up some of these deals. There's another house in Canada from the same story that had an $800,000 loss, okay? Somebody purchased the house for $400,000 over asking price at $2.6 million in the spring of 2021. 1 year later, March 2022, it was listed over a dozen times at $3.4 million, and over time, the price was reduced to $1.8 million before a sale happened in December of 2022, guys. So just in a year and a half, this person lost 800 grand. So the lesson that everybody needs to learn here is that real estate should never be purchased on speculation, guys. Some people do it, some people do well with it. If they really know what they're doing, they really know their markets, some people can make it work, okay? I'm not saying no one's ever made money flipping houses. I even met a guy in Miami that made a lot of money flipping the last couple of houses he did over in Florida. but I'd be willing to bet if he tried to do the same thing right now, it probably wouldn't work. And one thing that's really hurting Florida in general right now is this. According to a recent analysis by the Tampa Bay Times, they found out that there are over 117,000 single-family homes in the state of Florida that are owned by investors. For anybody who remembers my video the other day on the housing market, that's more houses that are owned by investors that are for sale in the entire state of Florida right now. There's about 100,000 single-family homes on the market for sale right now in Florida, and investors own an additional 117,000. Now sure, some of these houses that are currently listed may also be owned by investors. In fact, I would bet that a good chunk of them are investors who are panic selling right now and trying to get out before the entire bottom falls out of the housing market in Florida. And this doesn't even include all of the condos or multifamily properties or anything like that that are owned by investors either. This is just single family residences. But it looks like a lot of people are starting to get the hint, guys. In fact, I saw a story today that shares some promising news of where things are headed, because a lot of people are actually choosing to wait out this housing market right now, which is apparent not only by how low the sales have been. We're seeing the worst sales year on record so far here in 2024. But I found a story that highlights some personal accounts of why people are waiting to buy a house right now. They talked to one woman who wants to buy her first house in Boise, Idaho, and she saved up enough money for a down payment. She's 39 years old. She works in digital advertising. She wanted to find a 2 or 3 bedroom single family home for herself in the $450,000 or lower price range. Sounds sort of reasonable, right? But she recently put her search on pause, and she said that she was just kind of underwhelmed with the home search. She said that with a looming presidential election and mortgage rates poised to drop even further, the outlook for the market didn't look that great for her. She says, I don't have pressure to sell a house, I'm not losing equity, and I don't have the pressure to move. I can move whenever I want, and she's currently renting with some friends, so why not wait? So this is the perfect scenario that people should be finding themselves in right now, where you have a good rental setup, you're not being gouged, you know, you can easily afford the place you live, and I'm sure living with friends helps a lot, okay? And not having the pressure of needing to sell another home for one reason or another, or being worried about how much you're going to lose on the sale, like all these people I just highlighted in this video. That's a fantastic position to be in right now as a home buyer, and ultimately those people are going to get the best deals for a couple of reasons. Number one, because they don't have pressure and they can look for places for sale with a clear head. That helps tremendously. But also, because they're living in an affordable living situation, they can save more money to put towards that house, whether it's a higher down payment, whether it's renovations, whether it's, you know, nice furnishings for the place, whatever, to make that home buying experience better for them. And it turns out a lot of buyers are sidelined because of the upcoming election. A lot of people are taking a wait and see approach because they want to see who gets elected president, guys. And I feel like it kind of makes sense, but it also kind of doesn't, because regardless of whoever gets elected, we are in for some really bad upcoming economic times. That's what people need to realize. Like, if you are someone who's waiting, you shouldn't be waiting because of the election. You should be waiting because of all the economic uncertainty, okay? And all the presidential election's going to do is amplify that economic uncertainty. Some of that economic uncertainty may get rectified depending on who gets elected, but ultimately I wouldn't keep your hopes up for a lot of change moving forward after the election, because no president has the power to avert the recession/depression that we're headed into right now. You also have a lot of people putting their home search on hold due to the uncertainty surrounding the new buyer's agent situation. You know, people don't really know how this works. They're afraid to sign a contract with a real estate agent all at the same time when there's a lot of uncertainty in the housing market, in the stock market. So it just adds to people's reluctance to move forward with buying a house right now. In fact, in August of 2024, mortgage applications fell to the lowest level since last October, when mortgage rates were at 8%. So right now we have 30-year mortgage rates at 6.35%, almost a full 2 percentage points lower than it was then, and it's still not coming back, guys. And all these economists are just stumped by this, like, well, we don't know why people aren't coming back. Like, take a look around. You know, go talk to people about their finances. Go look at the houses available from people's price range and tell me why they're not buying, okay? Some people are even going as far to say that they'll only buy a home if their candidate wins. And of course, others are waiting because they feel that the housing market and the economy are shaky and hoping it will improve after the election. Well, that's what I just told you a little bit ago. It's not going to, guys. I think it's smart to wait because we don't know how bad the economy is going to get after the election, because you have to understand there are a lot of shenanigans happening behind the scenes right now to make the economy appear better than it really is to help a certain candidate get reelected. But once the election's over, the incentive to have all these shenanigans going on behind the scenes and all this propping up of the markets will be gone. And even a lot of very smart economists believe that regardless of who gets elected, we're going to be in for some tough economic times moving forward. But what about other items? It turns out that the car market is being affected by this just as much, okay? According to Cox Automotive, 60% of respondents to a recent survey said that the November election will impact their next vehicle purchase as well. So I think the election year just gives people the jitters in general and makes people nervous. You know, people are on edge of what's going to happen next, and no one really wants to commit to a major financial decision because of it. But the smartest ones and the smartest reasons for waiting to buy a home right now is the simplest one. And those are the people who are waiting for home prices to drop. They talked to one guy who bought his first house near Roanoke, Virginia in 2021. Okay, so if he tried to sell that house right now, he'd probably also be in trouble. But he was able to save up an additional $50,000 since then in order to put a down payment on a single family house in Knoxville, Tennessee for $250,000. But even though this guy's finding deals that he likes already right now, he's waiting to buy because he believes that prices are going to come down after the election. Well, prices are already coming down. I just showed you guys how much they are. But I think it's going to speed up after the election. You're going to see the price cuts get even worse and get larger after the election, because what's going to happen is what I just said. Everyone's going to realize that, oh, we have a new president now. Housing market's still in the gutter. So is the economy. Nothing's changing. Uh-oh. We need to sell this thing. But honestly, guys, I don't care why you're waiting and why you're on the sidelines right now, whether it's because of affordability, whether it's because of the election, or it's because you just want to see if prices are going to come down. I think it's smart for people to be waiting in general, because I just showed you guys big examples of huge price cuts. Those are extreme in a lot of cases, but still you're seeing a lot of homes with price cuts right now. Even if it's $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, that's still a big deal. That's less money that you have to spend. You know, it's less money out of your pocket. Unless you have an urgent need to buy a home right now, I don't see the reason not to wait. And of course, just as a reminder, if anybody does need a real estate agent, whether you're a buyer or a seller, it's a service I offer completely for free. I always have the link for that service down in the description below. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.